Hey everybody, the link for EMP Shield is in the description below the video. Just wanted to put this up. The Veterans Day sale still running, 25% off, plus you get a $50 off on your order when you click on my link. So head on over there after the show. Hey everybody, before we get into today's video or live stream, I just wanted to tell you all about MyPatriotSupply. They have like so many products, it's crazy. I wouldn't be able to even do a whole video on it. But just to kind of give you a quick brief overview, I'll go ahead and play this short video clip and try to keep up with it as we go. So they have the emergency survival food. They have these special sales. They have a gift guide, and you can just all these different gift ideas down below. They have awesome solar generators. Every solar generator comes with a solar panel for outside charging. You've got most recommended survival gear, water purifiers, flashlights, candles, everything, heirloom seeds, 70 plus varieties, all the different brands that they have here. Let me pause this here so I can go through the list. They've got Aqua Pure water filtration, Aquameyer off-grid hydration, Beyond Outdoor Meals, Franklin's Finest Survival Coffee. It's awesome coffee, really good. Grid Doctor Power Solutions, Instafire Unstoppable Flame and Heat, MyMedic First Aid Kits. Again, we mentioned the heirloom seeds. These are the Patriot Seed heirloom seeds, the Ready Hour food, and the Ready Hour gear. Over to the right is my QR code. If you use that code or click the link in the description below, you can get discounts when you make your purchases. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm going to redo my video for the MyPatriotSupply. I just don't like the sound, and I think I go through it too fast. But, man, they got some awesome stuff over there. Can you believe a 25-year shelf life? And it's rated some of the best food that you can buy, and healthy, and it gives you all the nutrients that you need. So here I am continuing on with my blurb for that. But this morning, we're going to bounce around a little bit, but the name of the show is some news and some what ifs. So I wanted to put the what ifs in because I'm hoping we can spark some conversation, and I'm working on specifically one documentary video, if you want to call it a documentary video, but I'm working on one that expands off of and kind of combines the campfire and lifting the veil stuff that I did early on when I came back. I'm going to start doing those again when I have a little bit more time, but those are going to be pre-recorded, and I will I'm going to try to work it up so that I can at least put one new one a week up for everybody. But I just want to look here. Do I want to? Yeah, I think those are the what ifs. All right, let's. So here's a few things. As I was looking over stuff over the weekend and watching different people that I watch on videos, these are some of the things that I was hearing out there. Well, the big one is having to do with health insurance. We know that President Trump has been outing how corrupt and it's a waste of money for us, but it's lining the insurance companies' pockets and probably some of our, what do you want to, our, if you want to call them politicians' pockets. You become a politician, you get in the pockets of big pharma, insurance companies, military industrial complex. Man, you have so many ways to make money. No wonder Nancy Pelosi was worth like $423 billion after she was no longer in politics. Give a shout out to Qbot. Good morning, my girl. How are you? Sending big hugs. Big hugs. Good to see you here. At least I know that my new built-in chat is working on my updated software. That was something else that happened the other day. I updated a plugin and it completely redid my streaming software. So yeah, it was some work. I had to redo every different setting for every show. Thanks, Qbot. Love you. All right, so the health insurance. President Trump not only posted it, and I think I might have put this up Friday's show, but President Trump talked about at least a minimum of $2,000 going back to the American people so they can choose their own insurance, okay? And it basically said all the Americans are going to get it except for the wealthy, okay? I have some questions on that. You know, how do you determine who's in the wealth bracket and who's not? But he said it would be at least 2,000, so it could be more. I know one of the other Republican senators was trying to write a bill to get us 600, and President Trump said, "Yeah, that's not going to work. We have more than that." So the question comes is how are tariffs going to fund this and be continuing on? Because at some point the tariffs are going to level out and all of our trade is going to pretty much, I'm hoping at some point, our trade is going to become leveled off. So I think because our current monetary system was built on fiat, I think that's all going to go away because we never really owed anybody any money, to be honest with you. If we were built on a fake money system and they could print money at a whim, and then that caused inflation. So I think our 32 trillion or 34 trillion deficit that we had, I think that was a lot less than that. If you take into consideration all the fluff that they built in. And I think for a little while too, our tariffs aren't going to be the only thing where we're going to be getting more money added into the pot. There are corporations out there and even specific people, millionaires and billionaires, that have been involved in some shady stuff, and even the worst, the human and child trafficking and all the things that go with that. Excuse me. I always have my sinus drain in the morning, so I get a cough. But anyway, I think with the executive orders that President Trump wrote back in his first term that are still going today, and while Biden was the fake president, everything was allowed to continue to keep rolling forward. So we're going to be getting lots and lots of money coming back from all that corruptness, and that's going to be coming in. Let's see, I don't know where else I was going to go with that, but I don't think that the $2,000 is going to be just a one-time thing. I think it's going to be a continuing thing. And the reason I'm thinking that is, as I I went back through. I was doing, I don't know, just like searches for specific keywords and things like that, like in the Q post. Those were the things that were put out there to kind of help get us to think for ourselves and to research for ourselves. So I was looking back through, and it kind of, they talked about going back on the gold and silver, and I think that's just another stepstone to get us to where we're eventually going to go into, we aren't going to use money anymore. There's not going to be a need for money. Okay, think of, I don't know, all the different Star Trek series. You never saw them use money. In some cases, they bartered, and that might be what this turns out to be, is like a barter system. President Trump talked early on about prices dropping down to like 1950s levels, but the salaries and wages were going to either stay the same or go up. So a lot of the only thing that my mind brings me to is that we're going to eventually go to a cashless society. Is that a type of socialism? I don't know. I mean, everybody's going to be equal. I mean, geez, they're making robots already to wash our dishes for us and to fold our clothes. The AI, that's why President Trump has been pushing big on AI. And, no matter what you may think about AI, if used right, it's going to do a lot of good things for us. It's going to make it so we can actually enjoy our lives more, and we'll have a machine doing our work for us. We aren't going to have to pay the migrants to come up here to, pick tomatoes and watermelon and corn and all that stuff. We're going to have machines that actually go out and do that. And they're going to be, these big combines will be driverless. And you say, well, how can they do that? I mean, they've already got semi trucks out on the road that are driverless here in Texas. It's all run off of AI, and in all their testing, and even in the live runs, they haven't had a single incident happen. It was built off of using very experienced truck drivers were involved in the programming. Okay, so basically, I mean, just for some examples, being road aware. First off, they sit up high, like a driver would sit up high in the cab of a semi truck. But these semi trucks, on the cab up on the top, they got a camera mounted up there. So that camera can see all the way ahead, just like a truck driver would, maybe even a little bit better because it's a little bit higher. And then these trucks can connect with each other and get information, like if there's a blockage or if there's an accident or if there's something else going on up the road, so that it can prepare, slow down, whatever. Even into the minute details of, say, and if any truckers listen to this, they will definitely understand what I'm talking about. They're driving down the road and they've got a car coming up on their left that wants to get ahead of them, and they probably want to turn off on that next exit, but they don't want to wait behind the semi truck that last half mile to get there. So most experienced drivers would ease up on the pedal, let that guy pass so he can hit the exit. And that's kind of what some of these smart semi trucks are going to be doing. So that's just another example of, and people are going to say, oh, it's going to put us out of work. It's going to put us out of work. Well, guess what? You're going to have a lifetime income coming in anyway. You'll probably get a raise at certain age levels or something like that. I'm not sure how it'll work, but you aren't going to have to buy or pay for anything, okay? You'll get to go out and enjoy your life and do the things that you want to do while the machines are doing all the work for us. There will be some people, of course, that are going to be working, and it'll be involved with, like software updates or just quality control to make sure that things are running the way that they're supposed to. There might still be some small mom and pop stores out there that offer some things that you aren't going to be getting at the automated Walmarts or any HEBs or any of these big box stores. Okay, it's a process, and I think it's going to that. But before I jump out of this and kind of jump onto the next subject with the AI, and we talk like healthcare. We've been talking healthcare, okay, and people getting their money back to get their own insurance. And what's interesting is with some of the research that I've been doing, and one thing in particular, a lot of people talked about these things called med beds, okay, and how med beds will take and heal you and keep your body in homeostasis. I think the med beds will be like the new doctors, but it goes down to the DNA level. Have any of you ever heard of telomeres? I learned about telomeres, I don't know, probably, it was more than 5 years ago. But the articles that I read on it, just to kind of put it simply, is your chromosomes, they have ends on them. And these little ends that are off of them are called telomeres. And as you age, those telomeres would break off, okay? And that's what gives you either length of life or shortness of life on the natural side, not like getting hit by a truck or something, but natural, if you lived a natural life. So a lot of the things that I've been reading and researching into is our food, our water, the stuff they're spraying in the air, everything that the deep state, the cabal, the evil people that they've been putting on us are all things, including your vaccines and everything, are all things that break those little telomeres off and give you a shorter life. If you go back to biblical days, people were living for 900 to 1,000 years, and that was kind of the norm. If you look back to Gilgamesh time, okay, there was a thing called the Book of Kings, and that talked about people living, or not so much living, but ruling for like anywhere from 16 to 30,000 years. Okay, so there's things that have been put on us by the people that have been trying to, and if you want to call them people, you can, I'm just being nice, that have given us a shorter lifespan. And then they incorporated in things like your birth certificate and things like that, so they can make you like a corporation and earn money on you. So the longer you're out there living, they're earning money on you, but then at the same time, they're going to give you stuff that makes you sick. So then you have to go see the doctors, and that's what feeds and makes big pharma rich. Okay, and then they just coerce your politicians to get involved in it, and they get their pockets lined, and they get to step up and be. It's just some crazy stuff. Okay. I try to put things in simple terms so that it's easier for people to understand. And I'm not saying, hey, everything that I'm saying is 100% true, but a lot of things that I say have a lot of legitimacy to it, but I ask you to just go out and do your own research on it. Okay? So, let's see. That's going to be in the news. Okay, 3i Atlas kind of comes into this. Is it a comet or is it a spaceship? I have my own thoughts on that, and I'm going to hold it in reserve. I know that's not fair. That's a cop-out. People want to know what I'm thinking. But, well, I'll just say I don't think 3i Atlas is a spaceship. I think it's just like another Oahu or however you pronounce it. It's just going to go through and that's going to be it. And it's just funny because people line it up with the stars and the constellations and all this stuff. So I don't know. But I guess we'll know the truth come December 19th, okay? Because December 19th is when it's in its closest proximity to us. And we're either going to ascend or get another big awakening or get some more truth, or we're going to have an alien invasion and we're going to be taken over. I'm not going to get into all of the stuff that they've been saying. Nino Rodriguez, if you guys, I don't know if any of you follow him, it was like 2 days in a row, he had two guests on. One was saying one version of what, and basically getting his intel from somebody at Cape Canaveral. In my opinion, anybody that works at Cape Canaveral is not high enough to know what's actually really going on. Okay, all they can do is just pass on the fake news. Okay, then the other guy that he had on last night, the guy's a Christian, but he's into a lot of New Age stuff, and he's one of the guys that reads the stars, the astrology stuff. And if you're even a baby Christian, you know that God doesn't want us doing that stuff. He said, stay away from it. So anyway, take what you will from that. I'm not saying either one of them is right or wrong, but come December 19th, when it's the closest to us that it's supposed to be, then we'll find out. Okay, so I don't know. Either way, just be prepared mentally, especially mentally, spiritually, more so. And if you feel that you need to have 3 months of backup food and, emergency rations and all that stuff, go to my store, MyPatriotSupply. Click on the link down below. Another plug. All right, so some of the other stuff that I saw over the weekend, and I didn't grab anything from it because I'm too busy doing other stuff and I don't have time to make little video clips of things. But one of the other things that I saw was somebody was saying that because of and it's the 3i Atlas, it goes with all the Q stuff that's going on. The arrests are going to start happening pretty soon, and I guess in February of 2026 we're going to have like a huge ramp up. So and that's not that far away. It's only a few months away. Okay, so I don't know if it's supposed to hit the big crescendo then, but we're seeing little bits of it now. And I'm going to show you some stuff in the news that will kind of connect that up. But the other thing that kind of got me was one of the people was saying, and this is due to their intel on their insider stuff, that President Trump, and this is all part of the plan, President Trump is supposed to be stepping down at some point in, like, I don't know, 2026 or 2027. But then I've got other reports that Trump is still in office in 2027 because they find another traitor in their midst that kind of was hiding out. But what'll happen supposedly if in 2026, if Trump steps down supposedly to a health issue, then J.D. Vance will take over. President Trump will hand the reins over to J.D. Vance, and things will start to accelerate on the technology side of things because J.D. Vance is, they're calling him like he will be our technology president. So, I don't know. That's just stuff that I've been looking at, some of the things that are being said out there. All right. Now, so I'm gonna finish with the news today. I think the news will be a better way to finish because I have some more positive stuff in the news. But now, because we're already talking about future stuff, okay? Now I'm going to take you guys, we're going to rewind the clock and we're going to go back. Oh, I don't know. Let's go back about 700 to 800 years before 1776. Okay. I'm seeing so much out there right now. Okay. And you guys all know that I follow a guy that has a channel on YouTube and on Rumble called My Lunch Break. This guy is putting out some very good information. I would say 99.98% I consider to be 100% true because he's got the receipts. Okay, even though I still have questions on some of the stuff, he's gotten a little bit more brave, and he's actually said some things. I think he was testing the waters, and his YouTube hasn't been shut down for it. So I think he was worried about it because they've got so much out there. They were afraid of getting their channel shut down for saying the wrong word. Every once in a while, you'll hear a word get muted out, but as you're following along, he has a lot of stuff on the screen. If you follow along, you can tell what word it was that they had to mute out. But sometimes I wonder, well, why did they mute that word out? Anyway, I want to talk about Tartaria. Okay, Tartaria was pretty much, from the way that I can see it, the whole northern hemisphere. If you want to look at Earth as the planet, and you've got our equator, and everything above the equator is our northern hemisphere. Around that time, that was supposedly all Tartaria, even the United States, and it was the Native American Indians that were here then. There were other people as well, but and because people were asking, well, what about these very tall Native Americans? Are they the Nephilim, or were they the Nephilim that escaped and got over here? I think back then, what you have to understand is that people were bigger back then. People lived longer back then. Our Earth was different then, okay? But as things happened and progressed, our lives got shorter, and maybe as population grew, our bodies got smaller. I don't know. Maybe some of it had to do with other manipulation. I don't know. I can't tell you, because in my opinion, and what I'm getting at, is that our history has been started to be rewritten around maybe the 1700s. Okay, and again, I mentioned Tartaria, and this will take you back to biblical stuff, where people talk about Satan's little season. I mean, some of this stuff all fits in. Some don't believe in it. There's a YouTube video that I bookmarked, or not a YouTube, it's a TikTok video, but I think it's actually on X. But I bookmarked it to watch for later. Some lady says she's debunking that. But I see too much positive information out there about this is what happened, and the receipts, and a lot of proof based off of the fake stuff that's put out there on this. Okay, so let me just do a brief overview. But if you really want to dive deep into the whole Tartaria and the history that was wiped out and has been rewritten, you can go check out My Lunch Break on YouTube or Rumble, whichever channel you prefer. But as I said, I still have questions about, like, what about this? What about this? And I think he's probably getting to it, but he's got this long-running thing. His videos, for the most part, are all like 20 to 30 minutes tops. He does have some longer ones in there where he puts smaller clips together to make a bigger picture for you, to kind of put things in perspective. But what we know, when we learned about history in school and they talked about the Dark Ages, I don't think the Dark Ages were actually Dark Ages. I think that was a time where we flourished as a people, We had good, safe technology. It was all advanced. The people were more advanced. The technology was more advanced. People were healthy. They lived for a long time. But something came along and caused a cataclysm that either is akin to the flood of the Bible or was something else totally different. I know in the Bible, God said that he would only destroy the earth once by water. So everybody automatically felt that the next time, if it was God, was going to be by fire and brimstone. But if you look at these buildings in a lot of locations, you can specifically see a lot of it in the Middle East and in India. In India, big time. But in those Asia areas, and then when you come to the United States, in the Grand Canyon and in some of our deserts, you can really see it. It looks like buildings are either melted or we had what they would call a mud flood, because there's more evidence to that with some of the other buildings. We had this big mud flood and maybe some fire brimstone or maybe some kind of weapon that was used that melted these buildings. But I'm thinking that it was this mud flood that swept over in like a giant tsunami mud and covered everything. And the things that they're finding now, they're saying, oh, they carved it out of a mountain, like this temple or something, like something in India or Turkey, or I don't think so. I think this was covered or melted. They found this stuff. They always say these things were found dead. I think the key word is actually found. They found it, and then they made it into something that fit their use, like these big cathedrals and these Capitol buildings and things like that. But if you look where they cleared these things out, these buildings, they would chip away and they'd open them back up. But you see the intricate artwork. We can't do that today. Okay, I think the closest we could do for that, but on a small scale, is like 3D printing. I don't think that we can actually do stuff like that. If you look at in New York, St. Patrick's Cathedral, wow, what a piece of work! And that's not the only one. There's more of those in the United States. They're all over in Eastern Europe, in Scotland, actually, in the UK, Hungary, Bulgaria, Ukraine, Russia. They're all over those buildings that are above ground, that when you're walking on the street and you wonder, why are only half of the windows showing? But on some of these buildings, I've got some old pictures. I'm not going to put them up because I didn't set up for that, because that's not what this whole show is about. But I've got some old pictures that show where they actually kept digging down, and it's 2 to 3 stories down before they actually hit the foundation of the building. So there's 2 to 3 stories or 2.5 stories that are covered in dirt, which at one time would have been mud. Okay, so something happened, somebody caused it. Did it come from inside or outside? One thing that I was on the fence for a long time, but when I've looked into the Bible and I've looked at this very long and hard, I believe that we live on a plane. Okay, they added the T to make it a planet so you could have a globe that we're on. Okay, I think we live on a flat plane. It's just a giant bunch of realms. Okay, so, and in our particular area, we were protected by God, and He put that firmament above us there to protect us. It may or may not also go over the top of the other realms, but on some of the old maps that I've seen and that were drawn back in the day, and then some of the reproduced ones that are out there, you see a lot of the flat earther people putting this stuff out, that that say Antarctica is not actually a continent down on the bottom of the globe. It's actually an ice wall that encapsulates what we know as Earth, okay? And the layout of the continents is a little bit different because it's on a flat plane, but it kind of makes sense. I have an ex-brother-in-law that he was a pilot in the military, and he also flies for Delta Airlines now. He told me that their flight instruction manual, when they are learning to fly, they don't take into consideration any curvature of the Earth. They basically fly in like straight lines. And if anybody that wants to look into flat Earth a little bit more, you're going to find that that is more in line with how things actually work, compasses and things like that, and also how it lines up with what you can read in the Bible. Okay, so anyway, we went back, 700-800 years, and we're at the Dark Ages, which were actually not Dark Ages. We were the people that were living here were flourishing. They were healthy. They were living long lives. There was so much going on, and it was all good. And we see a lot of things that they built were tributes to God, because they got all their they got all their health and good living and everything because they got their power from the ether to power everything that they had. They incorporated this into their drinking water, where they had they called it the living water. Okay, if you go to my home page, it's called realtube.stream. Within the first or second videos up there, there's one in there on the basically parts 1 through 7 of the rewritten history of the world, and it explains it. I don't agree with everything that the guy that made the original video. I don't agree with everything, but I would say about 90%, and especially when he talks about the biblical stuff, that I would agree with more. The technology part, I think he kind of steps out a little bit. I'm not saying that I disagree with it. I'm just saying that it's not provable. Again, he's having to look at old historical documents to come to a conclusion, but even the historical documents are not vetted, okay? So, I don't know what caused this cataclysm. All I know is that there was one. Starting around the 1776, when the United States became a country, is when our history gets rewritten. We actually have record of people coming here in 1607, and they settled in Virginia. There was a shout out to Coffee with Roxy. Hi, Roxanne. Thanks for coming. Hi, Captain Kirk. So where was I? I don't think I have ADHD. I just think I'm old and I lose my train of thought easy. But okay, back into 1776, and then I was mentioning too in 1607. I think might have been when the first group of people came. This was for they settled in Virginia, Jamestown, 1607. But around 1776, because we know going into the early 1800s is when the major rewriting of history started happening. Okay, so these people get here, and in many cases when they're first coming, they're greeted by Native Americans. Okay, and they weren't greeted in a hostile way. They were pretty much accepted. I don't want to talk about history about what happened between the Native Americans and the people coming from Europe, and I don't even want to get into how all the Native Americans died off due to sickness. This is just stuff that's out there. I don't know. I can't prove it. But the reason that I can pretty much with 100% assuredly say that there was previous civilization here in the United States was because when these people came here in the early years and they would, like in 1607, they started out in Virginia, then more came and they started moving up north on the East Coast and then kind of moving inward. And they were already finding buildings like in what we know as New York today. They were finding these buildings like St. Patrick's Cathedral was already there. There were other buildings that were already there. And as they moved westward, let's go to my old home state of Wisconsin. Okay, Wisconsin became a state in 1848, but prior to that, in like early 1800s, I don't remember the exact date, but I want to say it was like 18 0 and a digit, maybe 1806 or not sure. But they get there, and the Capitol building in what is now the capital of Wisconsin, Madison, that building was already there. And if you look at that building, just like all these other buildings, they're either Gothic style cathedrals or they're like these Capitol buildings that have the dome, and they almost 100% assuredly have marble columns, marble stairs. I can tell you, in my old hometown, okay, I think they call it the county seat, but this was our courthouse building, the county building for Oneida County. Now MLB mentions it briefly or kind of just shows it, but if we go to Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and they've got the exact same building in Manitowoc, they're identical, twin buildings, okay? And then they've got they've named a guy that built them, but they're identical. Now over the years, of course, I haven't been to the Manitowoc building, so I don't know what they've added on, but the one in Oneida County, they built a building, a square box building onto it on the back that became some office space. And they also at that time had the police department, or not so much the police department, but they had the sheriff's department and the jail there. That has now since moved out to a different building, and that has been made into like the veterans build, the veterans offices and some other stuff. But I'm getting kind of way out. But what I'm saying is as we kept going further westward, we're finding that all these buildings already existed, okay? And others that, like Capitol buildings, these cathedrals, these other buildings. And by the time they got out to what we know now today is Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego, if you go to the San Diego Zoo and you look at those big buildings that are outside the San Diego Zoo, those are also all old world buildings, and they've all been repurposed into like the electric company or something like that. These were never what those buildings were ever made for, from what I understand, and from the geometry that was used inside the buildings and the way that the windows, and at the time they used stained glass. These were healing centers. There was some kind of a harmonic in there that it gave a frequency that healed us. Okay, so my point is that coming back in the 1700s, when we're coming to the United States and we're moving westward and we're starting to build our country, they find these buildings here already, and then they repurpose them to be courthouses, banks, and churches. And these cathedrals, like I said, were never meant to be churches or places of worship, because back in the day, according to what we found in some old text, the Tartarian peoples, they all worshiped the God that we know of in the Bible. Okay, that's what I've gotten. All right, so then we have things like in the 1800s, you see there's asylums. They have orphanages and asylums, and then you have these orphan trains that came a little bit later. And you see during that time frame as well, in the late 1800s, early 1900s, you had all these world's fairs, okay? So they supposedly built all of these. I don't think they built them. They were already there, okay? But all this beautiful, beautiful architecture, and they had these world fairs, and they showed off all this stuff. And one of the big things that kind of hit me was they talked about incubator babies, and they showed the it was like going to a zoo, and you get to see these little premature babies in incubators. So now I'm thinking to myself, okay, where's the parents? There's two things that probably happened, and that's because around that time is when insane asylums became very prominent. And the people that went to the insane asylums were the adults that were like, heck no, I'm not getting into your game with you. So they put them in these places and started jacking them up with medicine. But at the same time, the females were gotten pregnant, and then they would harvest those babies and then finish growing them in the incubators. That's what I think was happening. So whoever started taking over after the deluge happened, and whoever was in charge of that, they always point back to a lot of people coming from Germany, which kind of blows my mind. Makes me think about a lot of other things related to Germany, but is it true? I can't prove any of it, and I'm not going to say, okay? I can just say what I know, and what is provable. And people are like, okay, so how can you prove that, they didn't actually build these buildings? I mean, have we built anything like that today? Okay, no, we haven't. There was no way that they could build this stuff in horse and wagon days. What MLB calls it, Donkey Inc. So we couldn't build it. We couldn't build them then, and we still can't build them now. They were found, and every time you go look up these buildings on Wikipedia, you can tell that Wikipedia has been written and updated by AI, because every single one of these old world buildings that you go look up, every single one of them has a fire story. Every single one of them was destroyed by fire and then rebuilt 1 to 2 to multiple times, which I call BS. But I think anytime you see the fire story, just like MLB says, it's a nod to show that this is an old world building. So, going forward, before I kind of come out of this, because I think I've given you enough for you guys to kind of look at a few things and have some understanding when I come out with my documentary that I'm working on. But so we know that our history has been rewritten. I believe there was also AI back in that time. We had cameras and we had photography. We have photographs of Los Angeles and San Francisco from back in the mid 1800s. And it's funny because they say that power tools weren't invented until like 1869 or something. I don't know the exact dates, but they're later in the 1800s. And the cameras, we know that they had cameras back in what we know as the cowboy and Indian days, Tombstone and all that. The big box where they pushed a button, the light bulb flashed, and then it went in. You can take a shoebox and make a camera that did what they did. All right, let's move on. We're gonna get into some of the fun news here in a minute, just to make sure that on my notes I didn't forget any of this. No, I didn't. Okay, so now I'm gonna switch over to. My screen fell asleep as we were talking. All right, I'm going to go over to my screen sharing screen here, and let's see. There we go. All right, now I just got to jump over to that screen so I can actually read it, and I can't remember which one that I put it under. I think it's this one. Yeah. All right, so going back here, Donald Trump put this out. But sorry about the American people are being terrorized by Democrats who have decided to shut the government down to make me and other Republicans continue Obamacare subsidies. Okay, which have been a windfall for health insurance companies and a disaster for the American people. The largest health insurance companies have seen their stock prices soar, some over 1,000%. I want to just mention really quick, because I was in there and I saw that, Travelers Insurance, the umbrella, okay? They're in that group. Anyway, some of these, their prices soared over 1,000% since the passage of Obamacare. Obamacare, people were saying it all at the beginning that this was going to be the biggest scam, and it was going to take place when Obama knew he wasn't even going to be in office anymore. Okay, so, and that's probably where Obama's pockets were getting filled up. So he said, I believe that the money should go directly to the people to purchase better health care and create competition. So if we look back a couple days ago, he also put a post out, I think I covered it Friday, that President Trump is talking about all American people that aren't in what they call the rich or wealthy bracket are going to receive the $2,000. Okay, so maybe, and he said maybe more. He said they don't know. We already talked about the about our $34 trillion deficit, and how I think that should be written off anyway, because it was fake money. So anyway, he said it's long past time to lower premiums, not enrich insurance companies. I stand ready to work with both parties to solve this problem once the government is open. Stop terrorizing the American people. Stop pushing failed policies. And I've been saying since day one, as soon as Trump mentioned using the nuclear option and ending the filibuster, but a lot of the Republicans were, and I'm not going to say a lot, I'm just going to say the rhinos, the ones that we now know are rhinos, are saying, but if we do the nuclear option, then when the Democrats regain control, they're going to do the same thing. But what they don't realize is that after all this stuff gets done and they get written into the law that what they want to get in, the Democrats are never ever going to regain power ever again. The people are going to see how dirty and deceiving they've been forever and ever, and nobody will ever vote again for a Democrat. All right, so good morning from Michigan. ICE agents spotted across Dearborn Heights, multiple Arab Americans taken into custody. I think I might have reported at one time that Dearborn was like 98%. I'm wrong on that. It's actually around 68%, 65 to 68% Arab community, or Arab, what they call Arab Americans. I don't believe that very many of them are actually legal American citizens, because just like we're going to find out with Mamdani, bookmark this, you guys, write it down and say that Mr. E said on November 10th, 2025 at 9:51 in the morning Central Time that Mamdani he's going to be investigated, and they're going to find out that he lied on his immigration and naturalization paperwork, and so he's going to end up not only getting ousted from being able to be the mayor of New York, he is also going to be ousted out of the country, along with Ilhan Omar and all the others, because we've already proven, and we've already put the proof out there and sent that to everybody up in DOJ, FBI, all of them. We said, hey, what are you going to do about this? We've now proven that Ilhan Omar lied on her paperwork. She's not a citizen. And I think maybe they know, because President Trump mentioned during one of his broadcasts last week about sending her back to Somali, but the Somali president said he didn't want her. So maybe that's already in the works. Who knows? Let's see. I'm going to bounce back on one of these here, but now we've got some FBI stuff. We're going to go back to, this is all the way back to the beginning, and there's now stuff coming out here on who the actual people were that were involved in the Russia hoax. And from from the day that Trump came down the elevator, all the way up to today, who's been involved in this. Okay, so we know we've already got some of them in custody, but I think we're going to find out that one of these people that has been named and a lot of people think is a bad guy, we're going to find out that this guy was undercover working for good. Okay? And I'm going to come out and say, too, that a while ago, I might have mentioned it already, where I actually jumped to the other side of the fence and I actually went after General Flynn, General Michael Flynn. I'm still on the fence about him because of one thing. President Trump never once, when President Trump highlighted somebody and endorsed somebody, Flynn was endorsing somebody else. So I haven't figured that out yet. They're not on the same timeline, if you will, okay? But I've gone from the other side of completely bashing General Flynn to being more on the fence, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible. So maybe from what I've been looking at here, I think that it's quite possible that that Pence did have Flynn fired because he was worried that Flynn was going to ruin their ousting of Trump as president. Okay, so there's more information on this here. All right, so National Veterans Day. Okay, and this is just another thing where Flynn is out there. He was the what do they call that? The MC of the parade. So he was the head guy of the parade. So we'll give him a shout out. I think General Flynn is a patriot, but as with a lot of people that worked in government, I think he got swayed and he got a little greedy and might have been taking money from places that he shouldn't have. But he may have come clean and got right. And it basically is working with President Trump. But is this the real Michael Flynn, or is this Michael Flynn 2.0 or Michael Flynn 3.0? We don't know. You guys know what I mean when I'm talking about the .0s, right? All right. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Pay the people, not the insurance company. Obamacare sucks. The worst health care for the highest price. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of people were saying that way back when Obamacare first came out. And I never got insurance on their marketplace, ever. I was able to keep my insurance. It was cheaper. My insurance wouldn't cover certain things, but I never had a need for it. All right, so now this one here, they're talking about how the judges now have the power of the purse and can force spending. So this here is the appeals court. I'm going to bring this, I think I can bring this up on the page. Let me just switch back over and make sure that it's coming up. Yeah, okay. So they're saying breaking news here. Appeals court rules Trump must provide full SNAP payments for November. Okay. It said for all these reasons, the government's motion for a stay pending appeal in part is denied. All right. So it's on the order is on hold for 48 hours per Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. But the federal appeals court on Sunday evening denied the Trump administration's request to halt a judge's order forcing the full payment of SNAP benefits for November. Okay, and you can read the whole article here at Conservative Roof, Unbiased, Protected, Informed. That just popped up. Okay, so let me just make sure that when I go out of one, the other one comes back. All right. So I did notice something that came out over the weekend that a lot of people, especially in California, suddenly had money on their SNAP cards and they were out. I can't believe it. You see these people out there, one family with like 3 shopping carts full of stuff, and not one single bit of that food is healthy. I know that SNAP doesn't allow you to buy certain things anymore, but they push the limit and still get the unhealthy stuff. That's crazy. Okay? But yeah, so apparently people did get some SNAP benefits. Okay, and then I want to finish up the day. I'm going to put this full screen so everybody can see it. This is pretty cool. This guy nailed it. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah. Coming in for a smooth landing. All right, let me get back over here. It's hard to get from one screen to the next. All right, let's get back to the big ugly mug of me. All right, again, I want to give some huge shout outs to Qbot, my longtime friend. I love you. Thanks for coming and supporting me. And my new friend, Roxanne. Pretty soon, I'm gonna put information out, good stuff, on what Roxanne is helping me with and getting to do here. And I already know that it's gonna help me just based off of what other people have said. And I am going to share that with everybody. Okay, now I have got to... I never stopped the video, and I don't know why you guys are hearing like wind blowing. I'm not outside in the wind. All right. So, but yeah, Roxanne, thank you. And I'm getting through that information, and I'm sorry I missed your live yesterday. I didn't get the notification for it. Maybe I will on the next one. I think it was because I might have clicked it, and it might have some time for it to go through before it actually does it. I don't know. We'll see on the next one. I think that's all I've got for this morning. I just want to say to everyone, as I always do, situational awareness. Be aware of your surroundings when you're out and about. We live in times right now that it doesn't matter if you live in the big city or a tiny little town, you never know what's going to happen around you, okay? So always be aware of your surroundings. If you have to strap, or be with somebody that does. Just, it's better to be safe than sorry. I don't care if you believe in strapping or not strapping. But also, be right with God, okay? Make sure that He's living in you, and listen to the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is your guide, okay? So, again, thanks everybody for hanging out with me for this whole hour plus. I'd never go this long in the morning. Maybe I will. I'm actually having more fun doing this, and it actually helps when I'm actually talking to more people over on the other side. So, alrighty, everybody. God bless you. Be safe out there. God bless every single one of you out there on the other side of the screen. And I'll see you tomorrow morning.